made out of marble, because everything's made out of marble. It's all this fence made out of marble that's there, and you would stand there and kind of, it was amazing that when we were at the Agra Fort, these two green lovebirds sort of landed on the fence as I took a picture of it, and I thought, there are the two lovebirds watching out over onto the Taj Mahal. And it's funny that, then I came back home and I looked at all my pictures of the Taj, because of course I was a tourist, as well as, finding that feeling of serenity. One of the only places in India that I experienced where there's just utter and complete calmness and serenity. And you go back and look at your pictures, and I took pictures from every possible angle of the Taj, and it's impossible to take a bad picture of that building. It's impossible, because it's so brilliantly constructed. And then you see inside the Taj the ornate work of the inlay. You see the walls where the Quran is written in kind of forced perspective. I mean, it was done in kind of a forced perspective, and it's not written there, it's all inlay work. And, much of the true beauty was pillaged over the years, because there were rubies and emeralds and turquoise. A lot of it is still there, but all the precious jewels have been stolen over the years. But you still see what it was, and you experience, and every bit of marble where you'll see like a fence or a gate that is cut out. It's one single sheet of marble that's been cut out by all these people, and thousands and thousands and thousands of workers worked on this building. And you can only imagine the sweat, labor, toil, the people that died creating this. I mean, there were stories that after these great craftsmen from all over the world who were brought, he brought the best of the best to create this building. That, the folklore was that after they would finish, he would have their hands cut off so they couldn't go and make something as beautiful as that later on, So of course I had to ask my guide if all these things were true, and get all these stories sort of intact, because I thought, now I have to come back and direct this story here, So I gleaned as much as I could from that extraordinary experience, and the feeling you get being in India, the feeling you get specifically for me being at the Taj, And then, meeting our great stars. I met Lisa Ray in Canada, but I met our great star Kabir Bedi in Mumbai. At the Taj Hotel in Mumbai, not the Taj Mahal.
Well, that's a good segue. My next question was going to be, I was going to say, the only people we've left out of the talk is your cast, and it's quite a coup. You found some very, very well-known stars for this production. How did that happen? Did you specifically know that these were the two people you wanted to work with, and was it difficult to get them to agree to appear in this theater production in Canada, dance theater production in Canada?
Everything about this project has been a blessing. I had absolutely no trouble convincing anybody, all these wonderful collaborators that we've spoken of, and definitely including Kabir Bedi and Lisa, to come on this project. I couldn't believe that their response was spontaneous, and it was a definite yes. In both cases. Shah Jahan has been played by Kabir Bedi in a film that he doesn't really like to talk about, because the film didn't do too well. But nevertheless, that was when I first thought of Kabir as a possible Shah Jahan. And I think he's done great justice to that role. He's come back to theater after a span of 7 years, to live theater, and I think this is where he says he's found his real joy, being on the stage again. And Lisa Ray, there's something about Lisa Ray that fit the part of Jahanara, both in her own vulnerability that she has just faced after battling cancer and has emerged triumphant. She is a woman of great resolution, of great courage, and that is all about beautiful, of course, and Jahanara was all that and more. And again, we just had coffee at a restaurant, a pie shop in the Beaches, a year and a half ago. And I said, Lisa, this is what I have in mind. Would you like to do this role? Yes, she didn't want to see the script. She didn't ask to see the script. She didn't want to know anything more about it. She apparently, she tells me, had heard about me. And the there was something very strong about the vibe that she had about this work.
That's a lucky.
Lucky gift, a gift, really.
And last question before we'll open it up to see if there's any questions from the audience. But what's next? You close it after all this work, years and years of work. Your piece opened, I guess last night was the opening, and it closes tomorrow.
Yes.
So what happens now? Is that the end of the road?
No, oh no.
Okay, good.
In fact, I mean, it's just been quite rewarding and unexpected that there's already been so much interest to take this work to different parts of the world. Definitely, we're planning a Canadian tour for it in the fall of 2012. There's definite interest in it in India, believe it or not, the land of the Taj, but they want to see this contemporary, multidisciplinary production in India, and Kabir certainly has been a great champion for it. He's been talking about it. So I think the moment we go home and put away our costumes and our sets, we will be planning the tour.
That's great. That's great. We're going to open it up to some questions. Does anybody have any questions for either Lata or Tom? And we'll just get you to use the mic for those watching at home.
Okay. When did you start with this project? You said 1.5 years or longer time?
No, actually, over 2.5 years ago. Yes, just started imagining it, started thinking about the collaborators we would bring in. And in the last year, we've been auditioning dancers from India, from Canada, and the UK. So the dancers have also come from different parts of the world. So I'd say 2.5 years, yes.
Thank you. One who was born in India, bred in India, lived in India, part of his life, 40 years. But thank you for bringing the Taj to Canada as it should be. We see it in books, we see it in magazines, we see it in Bollywood movies, and goodness knows what. But my own and personal experience was 45 years ago, I got married to a beautiful young lady. We went to the Taj. We saw it by moonlight, yes. It was a full moon when we saw it, and you could hear a pin drop. Tragically, she died the next day. So I have not had the heart to go and see this performance. Maybe I will one day, but for now, it remains. And thank you so much again for bringing not only the Taj Mahal, but the story of Shah Jahan and his beautiful wife, Mumtaz. Thank you.
Yes.
That's a beautiful story. What a great story you just told us.
And I have a question, actually, which follows in a way on that story, is as you were putting the work together and thinking of bringing it to a Canadian audience, I wondered what were some of the discussions that all of you had around those questions.
Firstly, what scale did we want to do this project on? I mean, obviously we'd gotten the best of the best in terms of collaborators, the artistic team, but one of the big consuming factors was how was the company to come up with the funding to put on such a big project. And this is when we approached Luminato with the proposal of the Taj being in their next festival. And we're truly very grateful for their commissioning support that really elevated the possibilities and the scale and the scope of this work to what it really truly deserved. And I'm not sure that we'd been able to accomplish it to that level had it not been for this commissioning support that we received from Luminato. And then, of course, once that happened, many other funders and supporters came into place, including the Scotiabank as the presenting sponsor, and then of course our funders who fund us, like Canada Council, the Ontario Arts Council, the city of Mississauga. This production was also very important because it is right within the Festival of India in Canada, which is happening right through 2011. And it's a featured presentation of their festival, as well as receiving support from the Government of India through the Indian Council for the Cultural Relations. We had support from Etihad Airways, the ICICI Bank, and many others. So I think for me, the biggest one that kept me up at night, worrying about how was this going to be fulfilled? Where was the funding going to come through from? I don't know if I answered your question, but I don't know if, Tom, if you have
Also,
something.
I can talk about it sort of more from the inside on a dramaturgical level. As I was working with John Murrell, you know, when I first looked at this script, I do a lot of dramaturgy, which is sort of like the midwife to the playwrights, the birthing of the play. In some of the initial drafts of the script, there were a lot of names that sounded so foreign and alien to me in an expository way. I felt that for a Western audience, it's a lot of information to take in. It was sort of like me walking into the rehearsal room, you know, on the first day, and all these, you know, the whole corps of dancers walks up to me and introduces themselves to me with names the likes of which I are not part of my lexicon of names. So there's a Rashmi and a Reshmi, and there's a Samjukta and a Samyukta, and there's Parul, and there's Otri, and there's all these names that I'm trying, Kumandini and Praveen, and getting this all in my head, and I'm trying to remember everybody. And, you know, I said to John Murrell early on, I said, I think we just need to simplify this a bit, because if we start to get thrown too much information, the audience is going to go, I can't remember this, I can't remember this, I can't remember this. So he kind of made it a bit simpler for us to take the story in. So there was a little, so we kind of diminished the level of exposition in the story, or certainly in terms of the complexity of having to remember names and places and things like that. So that was another thing we considered in terms of it playing to a Western audience as well. And I think that John succeeded in doing that, because no one who has seen the piece has said to me, I don't get it, you know, or I was lost in that story. You know, it's really important that the story is received very clearly. And, you know, no matter what country, no matter what kind of creolization, the thing about great theater to me is it has to be great storytelling. And Lata, you know, knew that the Taj was a great story to tell, and we hopefully have told it in a way that just is a bit of a different way to look at the story than has been told before. You know, in the 21st century, it's all pretty much all been said already. It just becomes a question in the theater and the arts of where you place the emphasis on the story in terms of finding a new or fresher way to do it. And I'm not sure that the story of the Taj has ever been told quite like this before.
Is there any final question? Okay, great. Well, thank you all very much for joining us, both in person and at home if you're watching. A big, huge thank you to Lata and Tom for giving us this wonderful insight into the show and to bringing this extraordinary piece to Luminato this year. So thank you both so much for being here. This is day 2. These lunchtime conversations are happening every day right in this spot at noon, so I hope you will all consider joining us again. There's lots going on today for Luminato, so if you're looking for stuff to do this afternoon, please pick up an event guide from one of our fabulous volunteers on your way out. And there's a long list of both free and ticketed things that you can check out this weekend. A reminder, if anybody needs, the washrooms are just opposite the escalator, and there's some garbage cans there as well if you have anything to throw out. And finally, please, on your way out, on the book stand behind you, you'll see a really very beautiful, very special publication. We're celebrating our 5th anniversary at Luminato this year, and David McFarlane has been working with our team to put a 5-year book together that's a very, very interesting read about how this festival has come together and what has been accomplished in 5 years. So please consider picking up one of those on your way out as well. Thank you again, everybody, for being here, and hopefully we'll see you again at the festival.
Thank you.